राधे राधे नितिन जी।
Radhe Radhe. Is it Tripti ji?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Ready for family camp?
Yeah, ready. Give me a sec. I have somebody coming over. Give me. I need to get them in.
Oh.
Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. We'll be starting shortly. Since we have a little bit of time, if you want to introduce yourself or talk about something, please feel free to. Radhe Radhe, Sandeep ji, Rema ji, Ambika ji, Anup ji. So we'll be starting shortly in about 5-6 minutes. Are you able to hear me, Pallavi ji? My audio is not.
Yes, yes, your audio is all great.
Audio is good?
Yes.
Okay, let me know if my audio doesn't cooperate. Give me a sec. Because my speaker is not so great. So is the audio okay, Sandhya?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Join.
I hope it continues.
Radhe Radhe Sandhya ji.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, seems I'm not logged in. Okay, let me log in myself. Okay.
I have made you a co-host, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Wait, let me see.
Yes. No, I'm just saying I didn't log in with my credentials actually.
Oh, okay.
File picture is not showing up.
Oh, right, right. It's not showing. Yeah.
Let me log back in.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 4 more minutes, then we'll get started. We have a little bit of time, so if you want to introduce yourself or talk about, please feel free to. I hope all of you are attending the family camp, which is starting from tomorrow.
I'm attending it for the first time and super excited for it.
Good. And that too in person, it's going to be amazing for you. Is
Yes.
any one of you attending as well, online or otherwise? You can show with a show of hand, you can tell that. All right. We have 3 more minutes. We'll be getting started shortly.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. Radhe Radhe Sandhya ji.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji.
So, Pallavi ji, you will be joining us for the family camp online?
Online I'll be joining. Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I wish
Person?
soon I can join in person also. I'm hoping to do that.
Oh, you're planning to travel here?
Sometime, not this year, Nitinji, but yeah,
For the retreat?
I'll try some or the other retreat.
Yeah, you can join us for the retreat.
I'm looking forward for in-person divine presence of Swamiji.
That would be wonderful. Nice. Okay. 2 more minutes and then we'll get started.
There was no Bhakti Shatak today?
Yeah, looks like we didn't have it. I was thinking there
Yeah,
should have been one.
usually it is Bhakti Shatak going on Thursday.
Looks like we didn't have one today. Yes, Chandru, you had something?
Yes, I've been trying since 1 hour to zoom in onto that link, and I got you now at 10 o'clock, and the whole hour there was nothing, no link open.
Yeah, that's because the session that usually takes place, Bhakti Shatak, I don't think it was there today. That is why you were not able to get in. We didn't
Was
have.
there any announcements about that? I
At
don't
least
see.
I haven't seen, so I don't
Yeah.
know if they were.
Let me double check.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
But you are in Chandruji now. That's good news.
So, Nitinji, it was so awesome that when I was in Connecticut, I get to meet Chandruji,
Oh,
Shailiji, like all our old, um, when we started with Meenuji and Gaganji's class. Since then, we have been knowing each other. All these devotees, we joined in those session of recitation and then Bhagavad Gita session.
It felt like an extended family. It felt so good to be together and meet up.
Indeed, yes.
Pallavi, you still have to send me the picture.
I don't have the picture, Chandraji. I'm sorry. Shaili ji's husband had the picture. We have to ping her basically.
You had a pretty nice reunion there, which is
Yes,
wonderful.
it was great. And then meeting with all other old friends. That was really great.
Great. So, good morning, good evening, everybody. Radhe Radhe. We'll get started today. We will continue with our discussion on the different yogas that we spoke about. We haven't spoken at length about Bhakti Yoga. That's what we're going to talk about. And also, we're going to talk about the Chakra meditation, Kundalini, and Gyan Yoga aspect of it as well. So we will talk about those concepts today and get a little more deeper understanding on these concepts today, especially the yoga aspect of it. So let's get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening once again. So let's get started. Today I picked up a shloka which is a little different because this is the only time Lord Krishna is actually, instead of saying it himself, he's asking Arjun to declare it. Okay, he's himself not doing it. Okay, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So he's asking Arjun to declare it boldly, and what he's asking Arjun to declare boldly is what we are going to look at as well. So let's move on. I picked up 9.31 because we are having a discussion on yoga and different types of yoga. So I thought this would be an apt one to pick up for Bhakti Yoga today. And having a bit of a discussion on the other aspect that we would like to understand, because this stuff is related with spirituality, the chakra meditation, the Kundalini. So we'll try to look at it a little more deeply, what it means, what it entails basically. And the questions we are going to tackle is, this meditation on chakras and awakening Kundalini help us progress spiritually? It's a very important question to know. And the second question is, what is the place of siddhis on the path of spirituality. Siddhis or the mystic abilities, that is part and parcel of, as you progress, this is something that is a natural consequence of it in the yogic path. So we'll try to look at it in perspective as well. So let's get started. I picked up 9.31 today, and this is the one we are going to discuss today. So let me recite it and then you're welcome to follow along. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi na me bhakta pranashyati. All right. Let's get
Radhe Radhe, please.
to recite it. Radhe Radhe.
Yes. Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Ashutosh. Radhe Radhe.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Very nice, Ashutosh ji. Radhe Radhe.
Sam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go
Radhe
ahead.
Sam ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शाश्वतशान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. Radhe
Very
Radhe.
nice, Samji. Your backdrop is like Golok already. Very nice. Wonderful. All right,
Yeah.
let's take some more hands.
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe
Radhe
Radhe.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. राधे राधे.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice. Shyamji. All right.
Dinesh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. राधे राधे.
Dinesh ji. Radhe Radhe. Very nice.
Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Very nice, Sandhya. Wonderful. All right. We'll take the remaining hands as well.
Yes. Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Rahul.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Very nice. Wonderful, Rahul. Okay.
Venkat
Can
ji.
take a few more hands.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, ma'am.
Radhe Radhe.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Very nice, Venkat ji. Okay, we can pick up the remaining hands real quick.
Yes. Manish ji, Radhe Radhe, please
Radhe
go ahead.
Manish ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शाश्वतशान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Very nice, Manish ji. Radhe Radhe.
Sam ji, Radhe
Last
Radhe,
three hands now.
please go ahead. Yes.
राधे राधे.
Radhe.
Ramji.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शाश्वतशान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. राधे राधे.
Nice, Samji. Radhe Radhe. All right, last two hands then.
Yes. Chandru ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Chandru ji.
Radhe Radhe. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachan chantin nigachati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Radhe
Nice.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Chandruji. Okay, two
Thank
more
you.
hands we can pick.
Yes. Asha ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शाश्वत शान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Wonderful, Ashaji. All right.
Thank you.
Last but not the least, Lakshmi ji, please go ahead.
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I can't on my video.
No worries.
If I on my video, it won't be clarity. So sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा स्वच्छा शान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिज्ञानि न मे भक्ता प्रणश्यति.
Very nice, Lakshmi ji. All right. Last one, Kumar ji, will go to you as well because you.
Kumar ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Wonderful. Very nice. So let's get started. Lord Krishna is saying in this shloka, like I said, this shloka is a little different because instead of telling himself, he's telling Arjun to say it. Okay. And there's a reason for that. Right? Lord Krishna could have said himself, what is he saying? He's saying that quickly they become virtuous and attain lasting peace. Virtuous and attain lasting peace. Then he says, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that no devotee of mine is ever lost. Lord Krishna could have done it himself. He could have said, okay, I declare it boldly that no devotee of mine is ever lost. But he's telling Arjun to say that. And there's a reason for that. We'll get into that. So let's get started. Now, Lord Krishna is telling Arjun to boldly declare his devotees will never perish. Now he's using, if you look at the word, he's using Name Bhakta Pranishyati. He's not saying Name Jnani Pranashyati. He's not even saying Name Karmi Pranashyati. He's saying Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Bhakta is the operative word. Jnani is the person of knowledge, right, who takes control of his spiritual journey in their own hands by continuing to seek the truth, and Atma Gyan is where they end. He's not talking about Jnani and nor Karmi. And Karmi is not the office work or the homework that we do. Karmi is the person who does the Karam Kand aspect of the Vedas. Karam Kand aspects of the Vedas is like the Vidhi and Nishedh aspect of Vedas. Vidhi or Nishedh means, Vidhi means do's, Nishedh means don'ts. So people who focus on Karam Kand aspect of it, God doesn't take responsibility for them. In fact, God is dissuading us from Karam Kand. If you look at chapter 2 in the shloka, God is saying people, they get attracted towards the flowery words of Vedas. People with less intellect. But then Vedas cater to everyone. Vedas are being very practical and realistic. They know not everybody's goal or aim is to realize God. You do yagya, you get this, you do this, you get this, you do this mantra siddhi, you get this. People will be attracted towards that only. However, Veda themselves are telling us will make it increasingly difficult for you if you want to follow this path. How? Because desh, kal, niyam, dravya, intent, time, the money that is being used, everything has to be perfect. Then only you will get the fun. Otherwise, you will not. That is how difficult they have made it, right? Even in Ramayana, if you look at Lord Ram, Dashrath rather, King Dashrath, when he had to do Putra Kameshtiyag, when he saw his white hair and he said, all right, it's about time for me to, have a kid who can take on the kingdom or with me. Vashisht, who was their sage, he did not have the ability to do that Putra Kameshti. There was only one person on that planet, I think Angiras, He was invited. So Karam Kand is something which is increasingly difficult. Having said that, yeah, you can still do that. But God is very clearly saying this you can shloka, you can remember always. 931. And the reason he's asking Arjun to say that is because now what he's saying that he makes sure that you declare boldly that his bhaktas, they shall never come to ruin. Now, why is he asking Arjun to say that? He's asking Arjun to say that because God can break his promise for the sake of his devotee. To uphold the word of a devotee, God can break his promise like he did for Bhishma. But he cannot break the word of his devotee. So God is locking in his commitment here by asking Arjun to say that. Okay, if he says that, he could have broken it. He did that. He said, I'm not going to lift the weapon. But with Bhishma, he actually lifted it because Bhishma said, I'm going to make him either I'm going to kill Arjun or make him break his vow. So God said, all right, I'm fine. I will break my vow for the sake of my devotee. So God knows I can break my vow. But if I'm going to ask Arjun, my devotee, say that, I'm obliged to uphold his word. So he's very clearly asking Arjun to say that. Okay. But he's using the word Name Bhakta Pranashyati. He's not saying Name Jnani Pranashyati. He's not even saying Name Karmi. He's not saying Name Hathi Yogi. He's not saying Name Kriya Yogi. Nothing. Name Bhakta. Very clear. Okay. Unequivocally. This argument should lay to rest. Bhakti is the key. Now, you could follow other paths also, Hatha Yoga and all that stuff, which is fine. But the yoga aspect is still Bhakti. Okay, that is what we are going to look at. So this is one of my favorite shlokas because it is pretty profound. All right. So let's move on. Now, the difference in paths can be understood through Markat Kishore Nyay and Marjar Kishore Nyay. Okay, this is also an important concept. Now, this is in Nyay Darshan. Nyay Darshan is a logical aspect of our scriptures where they explained certain concepts through very nice analogies. Right? Manduk, Koop Manduk Nyay. Right? The frog in a well, those kind of analogies are there as well. So in this, now just a quick thing, again to reiterate, God is saying Name Bhakte Pranashyati. Basically, God is asking Arjun to say that so that he's obliged to follow his vow, and it never happens. So on the Bhakti path, God is obliged. It's like a contract he has signed with the devotee, which he can never break. Okay. And as a result of that, what happens in Nyaya Darshan explains that when you are on the path of Bhakti, only Bhakti, if you are not on the path of Bhakti, let's first talk about that. It is called a Markat Kishore Nyay. What is Markat Kishore Nyay? Baby monkey. So when the mother monkey jumps from one branch to another, the baby monkey has to hold the mother tightly. Mother may help here and there occasionally, but then the onus is on the baby monkey, because if its grip loosens, mother monkey is not, it could get hurt. So the onus is entirely on that. And that is the marg other than bhakti marg. If you are worshipping formless, you have taken off the grace. You say God is formless. Formless cannot grace. Then you are on your own. You are like the baby of a monkey. However, now what happens in this case, the baby monkey is responsible when mother jumps from one branch to another. So baby, if it's not careful, it can hurt itself. And on the other hand, if you look at the kitten, it's very small and delicate, but mother takes full responsibility from transporting it from point A to point B. It will just hold it and lift it and just take care of it nicely. And that is the difference between the bhakti marg and any other marg. So if you are actually forming formless and all that stuff, then you are actually taking on the onus or the responsibility on yourself to progress on this path, which can be treacherous. That's essentially what our scriptures are telling us. Now let's continue on that. The grace aspect of it in baby kitten, we spoke about it. Now let's get to the chakras aspect of it. Okay. A lot of people, they synonymously use the meditation of chakra. In fact, it was interesting here in US, they've set up a lot of studios, like they set it up for Vikram yoga, Sumit yoga, this kind of yoga, that kind of yoga, right? Now there are actually places where they will help you do the Kundalini Jagaran. Okay, Kundalini is a power at the base of our spine. Okay, and through the proper process, through the chakra meditation, you can awaken that power. And people actually do that. Formally, they have started exploring that part. Okay, so let's look at it. Basically, what is it? So this is, it leads to siddhis, mystical abilities. Obviously, it will help you build focus as well. And also induces the upward movement of your Kundalini power. We have all those 8 chakras, so it will happen. And once the Kundalini is awakened, then, there's no returning back. The other part of it is, it basically, Kundalini it's an immense power. And if it is not controlled properly, it can result in very nice negative side effects, both for body and mind. So if your Gyan is not proper and you simply end up doing Kundalini Jagaran, it can actually lead you to Ashanti. Okay, I know a few people who actually did Kundalini and it started giving them Ashanti in their lives. Okay, because there are certain things that you need to start seeing and experiencing. And without the grace of God, if you don't have the ability to see it in perspective or digest it, or devotion is absent in your practice, it is again, you are like that monkey mother son kind of a relationship. You are pretty much on your own at that point. Okay. Now, other aspect of it is it does help you develop mystic powers also. In fact, mystic powers we get very impressed with that, but it's not a big deal on this part. People, if you go to Himalayas and all, if you read that book, Journey Back Home, Radhanath Swamiji, he met a lot of people in Himalayas and all who were in perfect harmony with the nature. And when you're in perfect harmony with the nature, you can tap into or manifest certain things, right? Producing things from hand, all that stuff, levitating in air. Actually, he saw Babas who were levitating in air. It looks, and a physicist or a scientist, it will say, okay, impossible. How can that happen? Gravity, when you're sitting, but these things are possible with these kind of mystic abilities that can come. Even on the yogic path, if you're on the Ashtanga Marg path, if your mind starts getting purified, the siddhis, they start following you. In fact, Baba Ramdev also warns against that. If you start doing a lot of dhyan, and he says, you do not get akarshit towards these siddhis. That is not your goal. I heard one of his meditation he was doing, and I was saying, okay, he's also talking about that, but it happens actually on this path. And what are those mystic abilities? 8 are mentioned. It can be like, you can become small, you can become large, you can read minds, you can walk on water, you can become light as a feather, and the biggest ability is the ability to create also. Like Vishwamitra and all, he could create planets. How cool it is, right? If you can create a planet, you'll make everything Hawaii or Goa or wherever you want to be and start living there. But these abilities are there. Okay, those are very advanced, but at least people reading minds and all that stuff is not a big deal, and manifesting stuff, all that stuff can happen. So siddhis is not something we should really dwell too much upon. Maharaji used to say, chamatkar ko namaskar. If people get stuck in siddhis and they start showing it publicly and telling you that, hey bacha, this will happen to you, and I touched your clothes and I can tell you about past, future and all that stuff, be very careful. Okay. This is not something to get impressed about, because siddhis are not meant to be used or intervene in the perfect laws of God. And siddhis vanish, diminish. And secondly, what will you get from siddhis? Let's say, for example, you get world. And scriptures are telling us world is not your goal. So if somebody is giving you world, you can ask that, okay, why did you leave the world? Because of which you have the siddhis, because world is not our goal, then why are you giving us the world, right? So we got to be careful around that. So, and the other aspect of it is, let's say you're doing the chakra meditation under somebody's guidance, and you start developing mystic abilities, right? If you don't have proper knowledge, it can lead your path astray. You will think, okay, it can bring in Ashanti also. I know somebody I will not name that person. He started having those kind of things where he would see things, and when he would not see, because he's not in that state of mind, he will feel very ashanti until he came to Bhakti Marg, and then he got the shanti. So if you don't have the understanding or the knowledge, you may think this is a goal of life. Maybe this is God realization, or maybe you'll think, okay, now I can have 50 people around me come and I can tell them about their past, future, and all that stuff. Those kind of traps one can fall into. So, chamatkar ko namaskar. That is not the goal of life. Now, this path, let's understand one more thing. This is material power. It is not a spiritual power. You are not spiritually advancing just because you have mystic abilities. Make it very clear in your head. And it can lead to pride and patan also, downfall also. Okay? It is not a spiritual power, it is a material power. We are still delving in material world only with these siddhis, with these chamatkars. Now, and more importantly, when you do this, it does not help in developing love for God. That is another negative side of it. Where do you have time to develop love for God, which is the goal of life? You get stuck in these things, further entrenched into the material world. And it is recommended for people who have less faith in God and have not understood the concept of relationship of the soul with Almighty. Our goal is not to get stuck in these things, but to develop love for God and to inculcate desire to serve Him. That is the key. Okay. So, chakra meditation and all that, if we are using it to develop focus and possibly help us develop love for God with that concentration, great. But if you are doing it for anything else, it is not recommended. It is not going to lead us towards God realization, or it is not going to enable us to evolve spiritually. Very clearly. I was going through Swamiji's books, lectures, very clearly is explained that. So, Kundalini and all that stuff, it should not be the goal of our life. A lot of people think, okay, we need to get the Kundalini Jagaran, and they actually go to their gurus and say, okay, can you please help us do the Kundalini Jagaran? Obviously, some of them have the abilities, but you have to practice on your own as well. But doing that is not something that should be the goal of our life. Okay? Our goal of life is to purify our minds and develop love for God. Rest all will follow. In fact, even in the marg of bhakti, these things, they follow you, but you keep rejecting it. They follow you, you keep rejecting it. All the way up to mukti, you will reject it. And that is where Gyan comes in handy. If you are approaching on this path without knowledge, without Tattva Gyan, then there is every possibility to fall. And higher you rise, harder you fall. That is where knowledge comes in proper, right? If you don't have a knowledge and all of a sudden you start reading somebody's mind, you start having visions about future and stuff like that, you will be like, what is happening with me, right? So you got to be careful about this. So this is meditation, Kundalini, Jagaran, and all that stuff we spoke about. Now let's look at the Gyan part of it. See, Gyan Marg part of it is again something that we spoke about Karam and Gyan, right? So Karam is Karam Kand aspect of it. Gyan is also something which is you are holding that ownership on that part, right? And if one thing goes wrong, again you can fall down because you are taking the responsibility of progressing on that path. Right? It's just like an aeroplane. It cannot take a flight even if one wire comes out. You will say it's such a big aeroplane. How will one wire make a difference? It's still a big aeroplane. It should be able to fly, but it will not. Similarly, if one of the things is not right, and especially in the age of Kali Yuga, they say no other path can make you progress other than the Bhakti Marg. No other path can make you progress. Very clearly it is said. Harinam Sankirtan, God's name, God's remembrance is the only way to progress. Maybe if you're in Satyug or some other marg could have helped you out, but in Kali Yuga it is impossible to do that. That's what our scriptures tell us. But let's look at it. Gyan, the importance of knowledge cannot be underestimated. So we will look at it in perspective, where it is helpful and how do we. Bhakti doesn't mean you simply go and do this, okay, without understanding. Bhakti has deep philosophy. It has deep knowledge. If you really read Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, it is one of the most wonder literary works anybody could have created. So much full of knowledge and wisdom. We look at it just like a story, right? But there is so much of deep devotion, knowledge, and philosophy around it. So Gyan and Bhakti both are needed. Okay, let's look at it. So first of all, it's of course a journey of faith. It starts with Nishtha, the faith aspect of it. And the fact that you are here, obviously you've gotten a spark of faith. Okay, so don't lose it. That's the first part of it. It's a journey of faith, but it's an intelligent faith. It's not a dumb faith. Intelligent faith, I'm saying, because you follow the process, you realize the benefits, and it reinforces your faith, and then you take the next step, kind of a deal. It's not like a faith and nothing is happening. You'll start realizing the benefits of it immediately when you start following these practices. Now let's look at the Gyan in two axes, we'll put it. Now, if somebody says, okay, one axis will put Gyan, other will put Bhakti. Okay. Somebody says, I am only going to continue on the Gyan, pursuit of knowledge aspect of it. Okay. And no cultivation of Bhakti, emotion is not needed at all. It is called. And then the other aspect of it is somebody says, I will just do Radhe Krishna. I mean, who cares about the knowledge part of it? Both aspects are there, two extremes, right? Scriptures tell us, Gyan Binu Bhakti is lame zone. You are like without a leg. Okay. And Bhakti Binu Gyan is like a blind zone. Both can actually lead to downfall. Okay. If you continue Bhakti, if your Tattva Gyan is not Pakka, your knowledge is not Pakka, right? It can have a downfall. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had also said, na karo alas, when it comes to seeking knowledge, don't be lazy. Do not be lazy. Understand the concepts. Get your fundamentals right. Solidify your foundation. Okay, it's not just about doing finally we just have to do Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. But once it's backed with proper understanding, then you will progress faster. So a good spiritualist is the one, intelligent spiritualist is the one who understands the knowledge and continues progressing in bhakti. They don't get swayed by multiple opinions. Okay, they just very focus and they continue once they understand something. On the other hand, we have people who don't understand the concept and they spend their entire life listening to opinions. Little bit of this, little bit of that, and then they'll go there and then they'll think there. So that is why Tattva Gyan aspect is very important. And then on the other side, if you simply keep on inculcating Gyan, that doesn't take you far, because end of the day, the devotion aspect, if you don't get it, it's purely a mechanical exercise. Yes, Lakshmi, you had a question. Having said that, now let's look at the graph.
Yes, please go ahead, Lakshmi ji.
Without Dhyan, can we develop Bhakti?
You can develop. A lot of people do that, but it is advisable. Like it says, Jnana binu goena partiti binu partiti navoy priti. Then your faith is not on a shaky foundation. Somebody comes and gives you some concept someday, right? You may get shaken up. Or in Bhakti Marg also, if you are proceeding without Gyan, the day you get some mystic ability or something, you will get confused. You don't know that you were supposed to reject it, right? So Gyan is important in that case. Or for that matter, if you come to a particular stage, Bhav Bhakti stage, and Lord Krishna, you see him once, because he does that at times, you'll think, okay, I've done my God realization, I'm done. You have to understand, you can fall down even from Bhav level. So that's why Gyan is important, because it will not let you fall. It will do the course correction for you with the knowledge that no, my Guru had told me, this is just a stage. I'm still not there. I still need to focus on it. But if you don't have that knowledge, you might get stuck. You might think, like people say, oh, somebody came in my dream. I have gotten God realized now. So that is not surprising. So that's why knowledge helps actually. It's like if you are swimming, if you have not touched the other end, you can again come back to the current, even if your journey was 99.9% complete. Because you didn't have knowledge, you didn't have clarity. So that is why when your Tattva Gyan is solid, then you will not fall. So knowledge cannot be underestimated. Knowledge will make sure that you are progressing with assurance, and at the same time you are not falling to the traps of so many things along the way, which people confuse for God realization. One dream they will have and they will keep telling every word as if they have God realized, right? One anubhuti they will have and they'll think. So all those things happen because of lack of knowledge. Yes, Kumarji. Now, these are like, yes, Kumarji, you had a quick question.
Yes, please go ahead.
No, Radhe. What I was thinking was, there are some people in bhakti, probably of unshakable bhakti, right?
True.
Probably due to some scars in the previous births and all that stuff. They probably got enough knowledge that they just had to do the bhakti part of it, or like, which means, they had the kind of knowledge. So for common people like us, yes, it's better to have both, so that each can support each other, right? But there probably are some saints or some very people like, who can just melt in bhakti, right? And keep that bhakti on because of probably previous samskars.
Very true.
Just my thought.
Very true. If I look at my nani, dadi, and a lot of people, they have sanskars, right? They've already reached that stage where they don't need to do tark vitark, and they simply do that. Having said that, even the superior devotee is the one who has tattva gyan also, right? It's not like they have tattva gyan. If you look at Kabir, he was illiterate, but look at the compositions he made. It's like somebody who's deeply realized those truths which a person without a tattva gyan cannot have. So, which is good. The Adi Nani, if they do that, that is good. But if they have tattva gyan as well, that is called a superior bhakt. Maharaj Ji says knowledge is still important because you will not fall prey to some of the pitfalls along this path in that case. Right? Now, it is like two bullock carts, right? When you plow a hill, you need both of them. So Gyan and Bhakti are like that. Both are needed. However, if you are progressing beyond a point, Gyan peaks out, maximizes out, okay, which is called full moon, Gyan ki Purnima. If you look at Bhagavatam, when you reach the peak of Gyan, then Gyan is not needed. Then you grow wings and you fly. Then it's Bhakti only finally. Finally, it is Bhakti. First, it's Gyan. See, Gyan gives you more Bhakti. Bhakti gives you more Gyan. Gyan reinforces Bhakti. Bhakti reinforces Gyan. That continues. And finally, Bhakti reaches its Purnima. And then it's only, no, sorry, Gyan reaches its Purnima and then it's only Bhakti. Bhakti ki kabhi Purnima nahi hoti. So if you look at it, it's like a waxing moon. While Gyan, it has a peak. It's done. Yog, Hatha Yog, Ashtang Yog, they have a peak. But Chitta Vritti, right, or Kaivalya Moksha, and then you are done. Bhakti doesn't have, it's like a waxing moon. Kabhi iski Purnima nahi hoti, because this competition between Bhakt, God doesn't have a fund. He said, okay, that much divine love I could give you, now I have run out of love. Can God say that? No. And Bhakt also, it's not like, okay, enough of sacrificing or giving it back to you, God, I cannot do it anymore. No. Both continues and forever and ever, even after God realization. That is the beauty of Bhakti. Okay. So, Gyan is needed up to a certain stage. After that, it is only Bhakti. But we cannot underestimate Gyan, because without Gyan, your Bhakti, you could fall because of multiple things. That is where it is very important. All right, so let's continue. Now in this one, now let's look at the Gyan Margi. These are the three goods, Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. Okay, so a Gyan Margi, he's out on his own to conquer all three. So what happens? This happens. He conquers. Check. Tamas, check. Then what happens? Rajas also check. Conquered. Gyani has done that. Then what happens? Sattva remains. Why does it remain? Because there's an avidya maya aspect of it. Okay, Sattva has a vidya maya aspect of it. So Gyani says, okay, I'll conquer that too. Check. Done. Sattva gone? No, Sattva still remains. Why? Because there's a vidya maya aspect of it. Can he conquer? No. What does he need to conquer this? Surrender, Sharanagati. So Jnani also has to finally surrender to God. Very simple concept. They cannot just do it on their own. In Bhakti, the whole foundation is built on surrender to begin with. It's not that you reach Sattva and then finally you are stuck and you are not able to go past Maya, and then you find a guru or realization that I had to surrender finally. And then when you do that, and that's when you get rid of your Sattva and you get to Shuddha Sattva. So point being, you without surrender, even a Jnani cannot proceed. It's a very simple principle. Okay, so Bhakti and surrender is Bhakti basically. End of the day, they also have to do Bhakti. That Sharanagati has to be there, otherwise that trace of Maya would still remain. You cannot knock off pride. You cannot take off pride aspect of it, the ego aspect of it on any other path. That requires surrender, that requires humility, and that requires grace of God. And that end game is surrender only, even on the Gyan Marg. Yes, Pramodji, you had a question? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So the other day we were talking about scientific temperament versus the other temperament. So I feel that, scientific, pure, if you look at, just rigidly scientific temperament, it is like Gyan Marg. That's what I feel. Like, there is no bhakti element of it, and people try to progress with just just hypothesis testing, and if they really progress on that path, at certain point of time they realize that all of this is based upon some fundamental assumptions, and there is somebody greater behind those assumptions. So it's kind of felt to me like it's kind of parallel to what we are talking over here, Gyan Marg versus Bhakti Marg.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, because there also you are putting faith and you're following a hypothesis, right? And yeah, in a way, you have to approach it logically as well. You're right. But then once you mix it with devotion, that brings in that one that is needed after all the zeros. Otherwise, it continues to be zero. So the yoga, the bhakti, the devotion element is what brings that one that makes the whole difference. Thank you, Pramodji. Yes, Sandhya, you had a question?
Yes, Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
There's actually a comment from Ashima ji. She says, my Nani follows the path of bhakti, but I feel that she is a young soul who is performing her divine karmas and making sure that the scriptures still have relevance and that they reach the right people. Whereas I feel like I am an older soul reconnecting with the Gyan that I was in the midst of gaining in my past life.
Interesting. So first of all, Ashima ji, technically, we are all the same age. Okay, so there is no old soul or new soul concept. How old are we? We are as old as God is. Okay, so nobody's an old soul or a young soul. You can call we are equally young, or we can call we are equally old. So we are all those. But yes, if you are basing it from a reference of spiritual growth standpoint, then yes, somebody may have deeper sanskars based off their past karmas and past choices that they have made or past progress they have made on this path. So from that sense, you can call it old and young, but technically we are all the same age. And it's very hard to say. Sometimes I wonder, it's like, am I reclaiming what I already had, or am I building on, from where I had left? It's very difficult to know that. So you continue doing what you're doing, because it's a moot point at that point. Am I just reclaiming what I already had? Because God makes it available very quickly, whenever the time, in this particular life, or we are really progressing. But if we are on this path, we should not even care about that. You just keep on making progress day on day as best as you can. But yeah, I mean, and the good thing is whatever we build as part of our sanskars, we'll carry forward in our life. So, and we really don't know, whether our nani, dadi, or whoever it is, at what point or trajectory they are in from a spiritual standpoint. Only God and Guru would know that. So somebody who might look like an atheist, he may actually take a leapfrog jump ahead of you. You never know, within a span of a month. And somebody might be super spiritual and he may take a U-turn in life. Anything can happen. Temporarily, God is going to preserve that, whatever balance he has. So we really can't know that. I've seen stories where people who used to be, not so much interested in godly topics, and they just, when they took to it, they were like, they took it to another level. So that can happen as well. Valmiki, we know that example. He used to be a Daku. Angulimal, he used to be that as well. So they just changed their lives within no time. So that can happen too. Let's continue. Now, Shri Krishna is explaining that if they continue the process of exclusive devotion with unflinching faith in God, their hearts will become purified and they'll swiftly develop saintly virtues. Now, this is a very important concept. Okay, when you eat food, do you care where it is going? Now it has become blood and now marrow and this and that part. You simply eat it, right? And that's it. It will do its job. And it will go to the parts of your body where it's needed. Similarly, when you have medicine, you don't think now it is, by bile juice is digesting it and now it's going to this part and that and all. It just does its job. Similarly, when you do bhakti or devotion, it will do its job. What job will it do? It will start watering the roots. If you look at the noble virtues, being truthful, being honest, helpful, compassionate, all the virtues, you look at it. Bhakti is like watering that root. If you do that, you will start developing all the good virtues all by itself without having to individually work on each one of those, like watering an individual leaf. Okay. And the other aspect of it is when you do bhakti, so this is bhakti, watering the root. Now, bhakti has other two objectives as well. Jnana and Vairagya is its son. So when you do bhakti, the knowledge and the detachment that is needed on this path will automatically come. You don't even have to practice it. It is called its offsprings of Bhakti Devi. Right? Not just that, we spoke about these two Bhakti Mukti maid servants as well of Bhakti. So all of this, the beauty of Bhakti is that now God is helping you along with his grace. He will make sure that you don't fall prey to bhakti, mukti. He will do the course correction for you, guide you, provided you are taking assistance from him. And the knowledge, detachment, saintly virtues, good qualities, all that stuff will start happening all by itself. Just like popping in a pill and it will do its job. Eating food and it will just do its job. That is the beauty of bhakti when you do devotion. So all the factors around us will start aligning when we simply do devotion to Krishna. Okay, and let's do that, wrap up, and then we'll have a discussion. Somebody can sing along. Ashutoshi, you want to do that? Bhakti Shatak verse I picked up, 35th. Ashutoshi is there, or is anybody else?
I think
to do that?
he has dropped.
Okay. Anybody else who wants to sing along? Yes, Sumeshi, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Sumeshi, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Satya ahimsa adi mana binu hari bhajan na paay. Radhe Radhe. जैते घृत निकलई नहीं काटे न कोटे न करियो उपाय. राधे राधे. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. Beautiful. Very nice, Sumesh. So it says that even the sattvic virtues like truthfulness, non-violence, they can only be achieved through devotion to Krishna, God. And just like it's impossible to extract butter by churning chalky water, it is impossible to receive sattvic qualities by doing any amount of spiritual practice that doesn't include devotion to Krishna. Again, the same concept, even a jnani has to finally do devotion to get across Maya. Very simple. And if you follow any other path, if it is bereft of yoga and devotion aspect of it, it will take you only so far. That's the gist or the summary of what we've been discussing. Bhakti is the secret sauce. Bhakti is the secret ingredient. Not secret anymore, but the key ingredient, I should say, that we need to mix in whatever practice we are doing to take full benefit from our spiritual practice. Oops, sorry, this is from yesterday. All right. Any questions or anything that you want to talk about based on what we have discussed today? Tomorrow we'll be breaking off because we have family camp starting for a week, and then we'll regroup again. I'll let you know. I think it's going to be next week. We're going to be of the entire family camp week. Maybe Thursday we will resume. I'll let you know on that. But it's going to be a bit of a break, but I'll keep posting stuff around it. So let's get the discussion going. If there are any questions or anything you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Nathanji.
Yes, Radhe Radhe.
I have a question about, like yesterday also we talked about that in the path of bhakti, we have to reject moksha, we have to reject nirvana, moksha. So my question is, how do a devotee know that how they are rejecting? Like what is the process? What does it mean to reject? What does it mean? It literally, like how someone is rejecting that.
How somebody is rejecting that? One is obviously to begin with, right? In case of bhakti, if you look at it, the way you fundamentally approach it, I don't know if one day Krishna will come in front of you and say, hey, by the way, you haven't realized me as yet, but here is mukti for you. Do you want to take that? I don't know, maybe that happens as well. But if you look at it fundamentally, your intent is aligned towards serving God. You're not saying, enough of dukh, misery, I want to get rid of it. You're not asking that for God. You're not saying, see, it's like bhakti is like you go after bliss, the misery will automatically go away, right? It's like beggar saying, remove my poverty, and the beggar saying, I want to hit a jackpot. So if he hits a jackpot, poverty will automatically be removed. So fundamentally, the way Bhakt approaches itself is like, okay, I want to serve you and I don't want anything else. So in serving you, I will get divine love. In getting divine love, the bhukti mukti is already a byproduct of it. So this is typically how it goes. Now, whether Krishna tests you along the way by saying, okay, here's mukti for you, do you want it or not? I don't know. That might be a question for Swamiji. But yeah, that's a very interesting question. But the way I look at it, fundamentally the way you approach it itself varies right from the word go. That is why I'm saying, even though these are all bona fide paths, the way you would approach your spirituality on a day-to-day basis would really be fundamentally different if you are a bhakt and if you are a jnani. And those sanskars, once built over time, they are carried forward, and that is why you see people, they are naturally attracted towards Gyan Marg, or some people naturally take to bhakti.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I think what I understood is that how the devotee, how the bhakt is approaching the path of spirituality, that is how they are approaching the path, like whether they are going towards bhakti or they are going towards mukti. Right?
Prahlad, when he was asked by God, God gave him a blank check, said, okay, tell me, what do you need? I want to give you a boon. So if he was a Gyan Margi, he said, give me moksha, done deal. He didn't say that. He said, I want to ask you that I may not ask you anything. That is what a bhakt would say. Right? Had it been a Gyani, he said, all right, slam dunk, moksha, done deal. So yeah, the way the sanskars and the way you approach this whole thing completely changes in that case. You want to serve God and keep him eternally indebted, not taking your paycheck from him. So
thank you. I think it clarifies. Thank you for your clarifying
that's
this.
why little understand, but I can ask Swamiji, how will they test for moksha, right? Because moksha was never an aspiration for a bhakt to begin with. Because it's relying on grace and saying, okay, I want to serve you. But it's a good question. Yes, anybody else?
Yes, Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, I mean, one thing to add to what Pallavi ji was discussing, I think seeking moksha is also sakam. It's not nishkam.
Selfish. It's a selfish desire.
It's a selfish desire.
So that also kind of differentiates the two. And other thing, one thing that you had said in that graph, that Gyan Marg has a peak, but the Bhakti Marg is like ever growing. So I think that this particular statement also kind of reaffirms that's Sukhitvam and the Jhulan Leela. Like it's like both God and the devotee will keep seeking for each other's happiness. So that's why it will ever grow always.
Level go out, yeah. There is no Purnima in Bhakti. Yeah.
And I think there are just two comments that I'll read. Samji said that I think if you're not having a desire to escape from world, then you're not desiring for mukti. And that was, I think, in context of that conversation.
Mukti is desire to escape from world. It's a selfish desire. Okay, enough of it. I want to dukh nivritti. It's a selfish, moksha is a selfish desire.
Yeah, I think next is regarding retreat. I'll look at it later. Yeah.
By the way, in bhakti also there are selfish desires. Okay, in personal form. When you say, see, there's so many levels to it. Now, when you start advancing in bhakti, a lot of people, they want to start enjoying, relishing their bhakti sitting alone. Okay, so they want to do sadhana and relish that bliss of their dhyan and just thinking about God and his leelas and attaining God. And then I asked this question to Swamiji, sadhana or seva aspect of it. Which one is, so Swamiji said both are important, like food and water, which one would you prioritize? But then, listen to it very carefully, it's very interesting thing. He said, even when you start giving up the bliss of your sadhana, sadhana also becomes selfish after a while because you are limiting it to yourself. Okay. And seva is like, now you're going out. Like if you look at Swamiji, he could have relished the bliss of his sadhana sitting alone. Like he's perfected Rup Dhyan. And if he's perfected Rup Dhyan, he can actually sit in Samadhi and just relish its bliss. Nobody can. But he's actually giving up that and going out and doing seva for his Guru. So when you sacrifice that also, he says if you continue to relish the bliss of sadhana, you will build sanskars of kubja, sakam bhakti. And when you give up that bliss also, you will build sanskars of gopis, completely selfless. So even in bhakti now levels start increasing. Do you want to relish it for yourself? Or do you want to sacrifice and do it for others, the seva aspect of it? That is why seva is very important. Because end of the day, if you look at it, we are Nityadas, we are parts of God. So we have to serve God. So the sooner we start building those sanskars, it has nothing to do with myself. I have to give, the better it is. Because sadhana also beyond a point start becoming selfish. So there are levels. God has like so many layers and layers of testing for us.
There is a question from Surender Ji. Is 931 preaching just bhakti, ignoring bhukti and mukti?
Yeah, bhakti is basically bhakti and mukti is talking about that your bhakt will not have a downfall. 931, he's asking Arjun to declare that his bhakt will never have a ruin. And bhakt means one who has love for God, nothing else, no other desires. Love for God. Why? What do we ask God for? We ask for God. Right? We ask from God for God. That is what bhakti is. If we ask from God for what God can give, that is not bhakti. That is vyapar, transaction. So bhakti is already rejected automatically, right? When we say somebody is a devotee, bhakti is already rejected. It is not part of it. Bhakti means developing love for God or asking God for God. So bhakti has already been rejected in that. And then the superior principle is you reject mukti also, because in mukti you don't get opportunity to serve God. Mukti is just my own bliss, nirvan, perpetual bliss, rasgulla, honey, that's it, you become. But Bhakt says, no, I'll reject that also, I want to serve you. So that is why in bhakti, it is a selfless desire that Bhakt continues with. Mukti, you have a personal desire which once it's fulfilled, you are bereft of serving God at that point.
Yeah, thank you, Nitinji. I'll take some other participants. Ashutosh ji. Radhe Radhe, please.
Radhe Radhe Ashutoshi, you missed reciting Bhakti Shatak. We had that for you.
Yes, actually that time I was driving Nitinji, so I couldn't take. Yes, I have one more Bhakti Shatak verse. Since we are talking about Bhakti and Jnana.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Yes. लखत रहत नित भक्ति मुख कर्म योग अरु ज्ञान राधे राधे अति स्वतंत्र है भक्ति पथ वेद पुराण बखान राधे राधे जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे. Thank you.
You are a walking Bhakti Shatak these days. Very nice.
Yes, thank you. I'm reading actually that book I bought from Sivir, so I started reading it. So nice. Means anything you put, something is related to in that one.
Kripa, you've gotten a big kripa for sure. It's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, let's take a few more hands.
Yes, Manishji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Manish.
Yeah, thank you.
Radhe Radhe. So I was listening to Maharaji's lecture the other day, and the question that Pallaviji asked, it came up, and he, in the example was the of a devotee bhakta, and Mukti came to him and said, so he asked, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Mukti." He said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "You're a devotee of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna has sent me to serve you and to help you in your devotion." And he said, "You're Mukti. You're not going to help me. You're going to cause problems in my bhakti. So somebody who will help, if you're going to serve, somebody who would help in my bhakti, but not in my mukti. So go away, go back to Krishna and tell him I don't need mukti." Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful point. Very nice. There you go, Pallaviji. Maybe
yes.
Krishna tests them. So if he knows there's even a little bit of trace of selfishness in this bhakt, so then he'll give him mukti, and bhakt will grab it with both the hands and then deal. So maybe he tests it, and that is where Tattva Gyan is important, where Maharajji keeps on reminding you, reject mukti, reject mukti, reject mukti, right? And
yes.
if you are convinced about it, then God would know, and then only he'll take you to the next level. So there must be some ways to here we are trying to crack God's entrance, right? Even in the physical world, material world, when we have to crack an entrance, we have to gain certain eligibility. And here God is going to test you. He will make sure you don't even have a single trace of selfish desire remaining. Wow. And when you have that eligibility, He is willing to give you all that you deserve. So, and here He's seated within, so He will know you more than you know yourself. That is where the purification process has to be really rock solid along the way. So,
yes, thank you, Manishji. Ajitji has also mentioned in the chat, change your focus, change your goal and focus what you want. That's what he has mentioned.
Yeah.
About this is related to the query on not to get onto bhakti, mukti or moksha.
Yeah, let's change our goal from mukti to bhakti now. Okay.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yes. Rahulji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Rahul.
Thank you.
Radhe. I think each of us knows that now time is limited for everyone. So going back to that Kundalini and then Siddhi's slide, why to waste time on all of these when we are not developing that lovenesh or that drop of love for God? Yeah. So time is limited. Yeah. Better to focus on the main path. Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, I think you summed it up. It's a waste of time, nothing else. Yeah, if you want to explore human potential, sure. I mean, material energy has so many fascinating aspects to it. Now, if it helps us explore the potential of a human, and that fascinates you, sure. But when you have knowledge, you stay away from all these things. You just focus on the real thing. No frills, nothing whatsoever.
Yes. Narenji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So can you go back to the slide where you explained about Nyaya philosophy and how it is linked to Bhakti and Mukti?
Oh, the Nyaya Darshan?
Yes.
Oh, Markat and merger. Okay. It will be my pleasure to do that. Yes, it's related to philosophy that if you are in a bhakti marg, you are a cub, kitten. And if you are any other marg, then you are like a monkey's baby. So monkey's baby, it's very risky for monkey's baby because he has to hold to his mother very, very tightly. Because when mother goes from point A to point B, if he's not holding on tightly, he will fall and mother will not care. Mother said, okay, I never took responsibility for you. You were supposed to hold. But in Bhakti Marg, God takes control of you. He will do the course correction. He will do Yoga Kshem Vyamyaham. I have personally experienced, there are three things that start happening when you are in path of devotion. Things that you have and then you don't need, you will start getting cut off from your life, or you'll start losing interest in them, or they'll start losing interest in you. First thing, things that you have and you are need, they will be provided more of it. God will start providing more of it. And thing that you don't have and you need, God will start providing for those, filling in the gaps. All three things will start happening. The best thing is the anartha nivritti that starts happening. दुनिया छोड़नी नहीं पड़ती. People, they just start losing interest in you and makes your job easier. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Narenji. Chandruji, thank you for waiting. Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe, would you kindly go back to the slide where the picture of the, I think it's a bull or the cow. You just passed it just now. I didn't quite understand.
Okay, I'll tell you. So basically what I'm saying is, in this slide is that both are needed. Gyan and Bhakti both are needed. It's just like two bulls are needed to plow a field, right?
Right.
Are needed. It's not
So
that.
what are the cows there for?
Okay, these are the bulls, like they plow the field, right? Old times before the tractor era. It's just like two bulls to plow the field. That's essentially what I was trying to show. If it's
okay.
You can't plow the field with one bull, right? Especially if you've gone to rural India, you would have seen, right? They would use the bulls to do that. So the two bulls I'm calling out, Bhakti and Gyan, both are needed to do that, to progress on this path. And finally, just Bhakti. But until we are at that stage, we need both Bhakti and Gyan. We cannot underestimate Gyan. And at the same time, we cannot only be doing Gyan. Both are needed. Both have to go hand in hand.
So that's why you've written over the peak of Bhakti.
Yeah.
None. Question mark. Peak of Bhakti.
Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say here is that Gyan beyond a point is not needed. It is needed for as long as you have not perfected your Bhakti. After you have done that, Gyan is done. It's like a full moon. After that, it is only Bhakti. And there is no peak of Bhakti. Bhakti is endless, limitless. It continues forever.
Oh, okay, got you. Understand. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Chandraji. Samji has messaged in the chat. It's surprising that even though monkeys seem to thrill us more than cats, in the path of spirituality, the reverse is recommended.
Yeah, monkey is called monkey because it listens to monkey, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I just made it up. Okay. But yeah, monkey mind is not good. We have to become a cat's kitten, not a monkey's. So that is the key, because we have to become ashrit, nirashrit, right? We have to become ashrit on God. That is when you get grace. It's just like we have to reverse the cycle. We have to become babies again. When we were born, we would simply cry and mother would do everything. But as we started growing old, we said, okay, we are a big deal now. You take a back seat. You don't know anything. And mother said, all right, I'll take a back seat. So same thing has happened with our relationship with God also. Our ego is coming in between and we are not willing to accept him that, okay, we are completely dependent on you. It's like, okay, I can take care of myself. So the process of spirituality is to become pure until we become baby-like. And with that innocence, when we'll cry out to God, He'll come.
Yeah, thank you, Nitinji. Ajitji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Actually, this knowledge has been invented thousands years before, and later all our saints are canvassing the same, interpreting the same thing years together. And as a result, we see the Kali Yuga has come nowadays. So, to my opinion, I picked up certain new things that we should connect the link that after doing bhakti or gyan, what are the changes occur in our bodily. For example, you see the Swamiji and a common person, there is a lot of change in day-to-day life. How much you follow spirituality, you gain something individually. You have cited a very good example that you take a food or you take a medicine, there are some changes occur in our bodily. So now in this in this new era of technology, we can find out that what are the changes occurring in our bodily, and that can be convinced to the younger generation. And secondly, after seeing your slide, that spirituality is the road where faith is given the name. Faith has to be there continuously, constantly. That means that there should be a highway of faith. If you want to go on a spiritual path or a spiritual goal, that faith has to be there. Then secondly, I have put the analogy that Gyan Marg and Bhakti Marg are the two-wheeler driving on a scooter. And if you add it to the Seva and other aspect, the four-wheeler. So faith is the road on a spirituality path, and then driving on four-wheeler is speedily.
Wonderful.
You can achieve your...
Loved it.
Radhe Radhe.
That's a very nice visualization of faith. And then you're driving with all the four wheels, bhakti, gyan, seva and sadhana. That's very nice actually. I'm glad you brought up that analogy. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ajitji. Yeah, and there are changes you can actually do that. Empirically, you can do that. Our body is like a water crystal, right? People who are on this path, a lot of their vital stats itself, doctors start taking it, they will be more stable than others for sure. That is the first thing. And then obviously the inner things that are experiential, that is not empirical. Nobody can count that, but you can see that in their behaviors and other things like that. Thank you for doing that. Let's hear.
Yes, thank you, Ajitji. I had to note that so that I do not forget. Kumarji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, and everyone. I have a comment and, of course, a request. When, like we're talking about monkeys and cats, right? So we said we should not be like monkeys. And immediately when my mind goes to Lord Hanuman, monkey god. So if in case we need to be like monkeys, let's be like Hanuman, or let's have him as the our model, or so that we can model after him. His bhakti is unparalleled, right? So whenever I think of him, I think of Ram as well, right? So that was my thought. Just wanted to share that. The other thing is the yoga festival, fantastic program of 7 days. I had to miss a few because I had to work as well. Will the recording of those be available to us?
I think on demand should be available. You can check with Kriti or Pallavi, you can help us out. There should be
Yes, definitely
on demand for that, so you can check it out.
Yeah, I can provide more information. I can check with Kritiji and I can get that information.
Yeah.
Okay. So in tomorrow's session, tomorrow there is no session, right?
I'll share that in the group. I'll put that in the IC.
We'll be off for a week around. I think we'll probably start next Thursday. I'll check it out if that's all.
Okay.
But we're going to have a bit of a break, but you can enjoy the sessions. I hope you all have registered for. If not, please do that. There are going to be wonderful lectures on Gopi Gita and Bhagavad Gita. So you can always enjoy that. Take down your notes and it's just going to be amazing. And you can
Especially Bhagavad Gita chapter 6. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be a little late for here in India, but the recordings would be available. So do sign up regardless. Okay, quite a few hands. So let's quickly take 3
Yes,
more.
Samji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. Nitinji, could you please clarify about Ahankar? I thought till now this concept of Ahankar is always unclear. I thought Ahankar is associated with every soul, but in the process of creation, it is described as Supreme Lord activated Prakriti, from which Mahan, I think, from which Ahankar manifested. So even before Brahma was born, that means even before all the living entities were born, Ahankar existed. Like, how is that possible? Where does it exist? Where does it live?
Ahankar is the first thing to come and last to leave, ego. Right? So the fact that thing that we think we are somebody, that comes. So that is a tattva. Ahankar tattva, Mahan tattva. So you are mixing that with that. But ego aspect is there, which is very sukshma or subtle, present in all of us. Right? And that ego is said that it is the first thing to come and last thing to leave. And using that ego only, we have to overcome our ego. Just like a thorn. You use a thorn to take out another thorn and then you throw it away. But it will happen in advanced stages. Until then, we have to practice. But that ahankar that you're talking about is not this ahankar, okay? That is a tattva, basically. Ahankar tattva, and then Mahan tattva, and then Panchtan matras, and through those Panchtan matras can Panch Mahabhut and all that, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
Right. So that ahankar is a tattva. It's an element, basically. Not this ahankar that we normally talk about in our day-to-day lives. Mahat or Mahan Tattva is there as well. But let's understand very simply that when we take birth, ego aspect is something which is very subtle and we all of us have, right? And it is the first thing to come and last thing to leave. Even on the path of spirituality, ego is the last thing that will go. Because using that only, you will continue to work on yourself. And again, the thorn example like I gave you, right? Using the ego, you are going to work on your ego and finally ego will be gone. You don't need it anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I see Narenji's hand.
Yes, Narenji.
Yeah, please go ahead, Radhe Radhe.
Hello, Radhe Radhe sir. Sorry, I'm asking. Okay. So my question is to the same slide, the Nyayik Darshan slide, because right now these days I am working on Nyayik philosophy.
Nyayik Darshan?
Yes.
It has
by Astana, yeah.
Poop Nyaya also, right? In it, yeah. Please go ahead.
So I'm not aware of this this Nyaya what you're talking. So so basically I just find that two things contradictory there. When you say Nyayik Darshan, when you use Nyayik Darshan word, so Nyayik Darshan word is completely based on Praman, right? Pratyaksha Praman. Inference, there are four major wheels of Nyayik Darshan, like Praman, Anuman, Upman, and Sabda. These four. So they basically, this is completely about epistemology, and that has 6 major parts. And out of these 6, these 4 are the major one. So they're talking about protection, right? Form. And when on the same slide you're talking about formless, right? On the same slide you're talking about formless God, right? Formless devotee of the formless. So I just find it contradictory. When you talk about like darshan and you again you were formless, so that is just one thing I want to. So,
I don't know. I mean, this is something I've taken from one of the lecture series. It is mentioned this particular example, or the merger Kishore Nyaya and Markat Kishore Nyaya is mentioned in Nyaya Darshan. Now, and it is mentioned in context of the formless and the form aspect of God. Now, how it is mentioned and what are you trying to reconcile? Maybe we can talk offline on that more. But this example is given to illustrate the differences between both the paths, that on one, you are relying on God's grace, where God takes responsibility for you, and on the others, you are pretty much on your own. And it can be treacherous path. So that is the analogy which is given. If you want more information,
no,
please.
I do not have any question with this word Nyaya, but when we say Nyaya Darshan, then we directly go to those epistemological things like 6 part of epistemology, getting knowledge. So basically, and another from the same philosophy, like you mentioned once more again in the latest slide, that Gyan has a peak. But the Nyaya Darshan, they say that Gyan, there is no peak of Gyan, it is continuous buddhi and consciousness, whatever you have.
So see the scriptures, if we
so since these days I'm working on Nyaya philosophy, so these two things I just find it contradictory. When you say Nyaya Darshan, then if you use the word only Nyaya logic, that is fine.
Okay.
There is no,
I'm not an expert on that. If I said Nyaya Darshan, I can relook at that part of it. But other aspect of scriptures is then when we do our study on our own, right? If we selectively pick up something, it may actually confuse us. In fact, that is one of the things premises Maharaj used in his illustration of scriptures as well, where he said scriptures are actually the most confusing things and they are contradicting each other at a lot of places. So when we try to do it on our own and try to pick up selectively from something, then we may lose out on its true import as well. So that is why I rely on a God-realized saint or their lectures or their interpretation of stuff more than trying to do it on my own. So
scriptures are completely subjective, whatever way you want to describe.
True, it is subjective for people
subjective,
with material intellect. However, for people who are God-realized, who are saints, it is not subjective. It is very clear to them and they can resolve the contradictions around it. It is subjective for people like us who are not yet there. Same thing can carry different meanings for them because they are divine. But if somebody is a saint who has seen the truth, that makes the whole difference. They can actually tell you the true import and reconcile it for you to your satisfaction. That is why it is said scriptures is not something that you can study on your own. Bhagavad Gita itself is Krishna. Arjun is telling, Arjun is being told by Krishna that you have to approach a spiritual master who has seen the truth. Because if you read scriptures on your own, you will become so confused that you will say what to believe and what not to believe. And it can even make you Nastic. That is what Maharaj Ji and saints have did. So scripture always have to be read under an expert guidance. Yes, if you are doing a PhD or a thesis for a while, that is a different thing. But if you are trying to advance spiritually, it has to be done under an expert guidance of a God-realized guru. A guru who is not only God-realized, but also Shruti plus Brahmanist. God-realized plus well-versed in scriptures. It's not a matter of self-study where we pick up something and keep debating about it for the rest of our life. It can be very, very confusing. And they can apparently be very, very contradicting as well in different scriptures. That is what at least the saints have told us.
Yeah, thank you, Nitinji. Ramaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, very profound discussion, and I just wanted to know, Nitinji, about that. You just told about that ego. With the ego itself, you remove the ego. So, can you just elaborate on that with some examples also?
See, the feeling of I will remain. It's not something that we can overcome until we have become self-realized or God-realized, right? So that is how, examples I can't make, but the thorn example is an analogy that I had read and we had discussed over, which kind of made sense to me because with using this I, you have to practice humility. That end of the day, I am the servant of God, right? I'm a part of Him, and I have to put it in perspective, not thinking, big or grand about myself. And that will finally, when we are situated in the perfect knowledge, it will automatically go away at that point. But it is said that this I is something that remains with us till the last moment. It's at the tipping point of your realization, this I will go away. That is how subtle and that is how powerful this I is. Maybe we can look into some more examples. I can check with Swamiji to illustrate this point, but that is my limited understanding on this topic.
Ashaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji and everyone. मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि जैसे पहले कहा गया कि some of the saints are there, that they didn't study the scriptures and all this Vedant. But मैं ये कहूंगी कि उनकी, जैसे आपने कहा कि पूर्व जन्म के इतने वो उनकी स्पिरिचुअल यात्रा इतनी आगे बढ़ी हुई होती है कि इस जन्म में वो ये सब पढ़ नहीं पाते, मगर जब भक्ति में उस लेवल पर निष्ठा से और समर्पितता से पहुंचते हैं तो अपने आप ही अंतर्मन में उनके ज्ञान प्रकट होता है ईश्वर की तरफ से, उसकी उनकी कृपा से। जैसे कि नरसिंह मेहता, कबीरदास जी का आपने वो कहा, और रहीम खान एंड मीराबाई एंड ऑल ऑफ देम, वो ज्ञान जरूरी है मगर जो अपने आप ही उनके मन में प्रकट होता है और जो ईश्वर की कृपा से वो सब स्क्रिप्चर्स का सार होता है, वो जो उनके पद में हम गुजरात में तो सो मैनी है ऐसे कि जो जिनके पद और भजन हम सुनते हैं तो उस सभी में पूरे भारत में ऐसे मिलते हैं कि जैसे ही वो वेद की ऋचाएं ये इसका अर्थ है। और दूसरी बात मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि पहले आगे कहा गया किसी ने कि उनकी नानी और दादी जो कर्म कांड करती है पूजा वगैरह, तो वो हम लोग जो पढ़ते हैं और ये सब ज्ञान चर्चा करते हैं वो सब आगे हैं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि वो हमारी नानी और दादी जो है जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं वो उन्होंने जिया है। They lived that सिद्धांत, all the नियम एंड सदाचार, सत्य, अहिंसा जो हम शब्दों में पढ़ते हैं, तो वो उन्होंने लाइफ में द वे ऑफ लाइफ दे हैव अटेन्ड दैट। मैं ये कहूंगी कि और वो अंतर्मन से उतने हमसे बहुत आगे लेवल पर हो सकते हैं, क्योंकि मैं याद करती हूँ कई हमारे मदर्स सेंटेंसेस और एनी एल्डर्स के वो पढ़े बिना वो श्लोक के बिल्कुल ही अर्थ उसमें मिलते हैं। जब हम गीता पढ़ते हैं श्लोक, तो मुझे लगता है कि नहीं, यही तो वो लोग बोल रहे थे बिना पढ़े। तो that's what I wanted to add, that I think that they were more advanced. It may be, तो भी ये नहीं सोच सकते कि हम ये पढ़ रहे हैं तो ये हम कुछ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं और वो लोग नहीं थे, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है। Exceptions are everywhere, but we have to, और ये बात जब हम सोचते हैं तो हम में सूक्ष्म अहंकार आता है, तो मैं ये उसको भी हमें वर्जित मानना चाहिए।
I think at no point did we discuss that because we are studying it we are superior. So I don't know, आपको ऐसा क्यों प्रतीत हुआ कि हमने कहा कि
आपने नहीं कहा, आपने नहीं कहा, मैं कभी नहीं ये नहीं सोच सकती। आपका लेवल तो बहुत ही
अरे नहीं,
नहीं किसी ने ये नहीं कहा। मैं ये जनरल स्टेटमेंट अपने लिए सबके लिए कह रही हूँ कि हम लोग अगर ऐसा सोचते हैं, सोचते नहीं है, इस ग्रुप में तो कोई ऐसा नहीं है, मैं सोचती हूँ, मगर जब हम किसी को ये पढ़े बिना जब कर्म कांड करते देखते हैं तो ये हम नहीं सोचना चाहिए। मैं ये किसी के लिए नहीं कह रही हूँ। I would be the last person to do that in our group में तो कोई भी ऐसा नहीं है, सब ये बहुत ही, आपने तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं कहा, किसी ने नहीं कहा, मगर ये जनरल हम सबको अवेयरनेस के लिए करना चाहिए। That's what I meant.
Very true, very nice आशा जी, आपके विचारों से मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ। Spirituality end of the day is a something for ourselves, for our own evaluation, स्वयं के आंकलन के लिए काही प्रयोजन है स्पिरिचुअलिटी का, नॉट टू जज अदर्स फॉर श्योर। इनफैक्ट आपने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली। इनफैक्ट भगवद गीता 10:10 में लॉर्ड कृष्ण कहते हैं, तेषां सतत युक्तानां भजतां प्रीति पूर्वकम ददामि बुद्धि योगम तम तेन माम उपयन्ति ते। He says dadami buddhi yogam tam. Basically that means I give them the wisdom. I become their wisdom in their mind. So it's our effort because of which we understand something. Krishna comes and sits in it and makes it understand. And that knowledge is revealed to us when we unite our mind with God. And like you said, we don't have to read scriptures also. It starts getting revealed from within. It's like you wake up one day and you start knowing the truth, how wonderful it is. That's exactly how it goes. Thank you so much for sharing that, Asha ji.
Thank you.
Last question for the day, maybe?
Yeah, thank you, Asha ji. There is one quick question in the chat, Nitin ji.
Lakshmi ji has mentioned yoga festival was awesome, but it was difficult to attend because of timings. So if we get the recordings, it would be nice. Thank you. So
yeah, I think on demand might be available, but Pallavi, you can check and let
yes.
everybody know on the group. I think on demand should be available. Maybe it might be time bound though, because I don't know for how long they'll maintain those videos. But check it out. Should be there. Yeah, I agree. That was awesome. Some amazing
Awesome
lectures.
session. Yeah.
Uza Bhai when he had come, Sarva Priyanandji. There was so much of wealth of information that was available. And same thing is going to happen in the family camp as well. That's why I'm asking you, please do register if you haven't. So do avail this beautiful opportunity.
Definitely. So Lakshmi ji, I will reach out to Kriti ji, get more information, and I'll post whatever I learn about the recordings in the our interactive WhatsApp group. I'll do that.
Great. All right. Time for our closing prayers. Surinder ji has already raised hands for that. Or who's going to do that today? Yes, Surinder ji, you had a question?
Thank you. Thank you. I will inform the other devotee that all the lectures of this special invitees of this yoga session, they are available. We have received on WhatsApp.
Oh.
It's already there. It's already there.
It's not.
Can we start the prayers?
Okay, great. So if they're available, Surinder ji, you may want to share the link with on the group. Then that way the other participants can benefit from it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so again, a reminder, from tomorrow we have family camp starting. Please do register if you haven't. And then we will be restarting. Look out for a message mostly on Thursday next week. But we'll see, I mean, how that goes. If it goes late, maybe we'll take maybe an extended break. So it's going to be a bit of a break before we have our next session. So do stay inspired, and I look forward to seeing you back in about a week then. So
I think Smita ji wants to.
yes, Smita ji, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. I mean, I registered long back when the retreat was announced, and unfortunately, I have not received any link or anything. Will I be receiving it tomorrow, or what should I be? I mean, whom should I be contacting?
Are you saying family camp or retreat?
Family camp.
You haven't received the link, so you need to put it in the attendance tracker. Pallavi ji, you may have to check with Kriti. You should have had.
Okay, Smita ji, can you please send me your, text me your email address? I'll do some inquiry. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. Or phone number, whatever the way I can reach out to you.
Yeah, I think should have been, but if not, then we have to tell Kriti she's creating more work. Okay, so let's get this feedback. Okay, let's do our closing prayers then.
Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhav bhave. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Hari. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Great rest of your evening, and stay inspired. I'll see you back in about a week then. Radhe Radhe.
We'll be missing you.
The feeling is full, Surinder ji.
Anyhow, for a good cause, family camp will be attended by us.
We'll all have a good time. So
yeah, we'll
see you in about a week. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Ashutosh ji, do you have something quick to say? Yeah.
Actually, someone is asking about family camp now. So they have given mail to everyone, and I think password will be your registered email ID where you have registered, with mail ID you have registered, and your password will be your last name in small case, and you have to log in through RKT, the last means rkttemple.net.
I think Ramya ji also messaged that she has not received any information. Ramya ji also mentioned, and Smita ji mentioned.
Let's take their names and let Kriti do something.
Yes, let me reach out to all of you. Thank you.
Sure.
Radhe Radhe. Have a thank you, Nitinji, for such an awesome session. Thank you everyone for participating. Have a blessed day and blessed night. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.